Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. This is Alan with Institute of Clinical Excellence. Today we're going to talk about scheduling. So we get a lot of questions often about how to make scheduling smoother, whether people are a new grad or a veteran PT. And so I wanted to take some time and talk about 5 tips that I've found so far that have helped me smooth out my scheduling. And make sure that the day flows well, and I feel like I'm giving the best quality care to all of my patients that I can. And I apologize, I'm getting a little bit sick, so I'm starting to lose my voice, but we'll truck on through this anyways. So I think the first thing that's important with scheduling starts way before you even worry about scheduling, and it should have been something that you've done during your interview. And if you're looking at a new position, then there's still hope, because a lot of these problems can be resolved in the interview, and making sure productivity and visits and that sort of stuff is clear when you interview for a new position. So let's back up the bus and cover some things that you should ask day one, or you should have asked day one. So regarding productivity, is there a set number of visits per day or per week, units per day or per week, whatever your clinic does? Does a certain percentage of your time have to be productive? Does charting count for or against your productivity? And something I've seen on clinical rotations is, does an eval count for productivity, and how does it count? I've seen some clinics where it counts as just one visit or one unit, which made people not want to have evals. So the new people did all the evals, and the veteran PTs did all the treatments, so that their productivity wasn't harmed, which can be really rough on a new PT or a new grad at a new clinic. And probably the most important question is, what happens if you don't hit these numbers? Often it means you won't be eligible for a bonus, but sometimes it means nothing will happen to you. You'll just have somebody nagging you, which is, in my book, fine. I don't care about that. And it is still possible to have a job where you don't get nagged about productivity. So they're out there. You just need to do your homework and put in the work and look for them. I had a clinical rotation where every morning the PTs had to come in. The productivity from the previous day was printed out and put up on a big board, and the PTs had to look at their productivity, initial that they looked at it, and then write why, if they didn't hit their minimum, why that happened. So don't get a job like that. There are positions out there where you don't have to get treated like that as a professional. So take a little bit more time looking for a position, put in the work to find out what your schedule will look like, what the productivity requirements are before you accept a position. Something that I've learned the past couple weeks is figuring out what happens when somebody goes on vacation. Obviously, if somebody is sick for a day or two, the system is usually to cover down on just the other patients. But if someone's going to be gone for 7, 10, 14 days, what is the policy? Is there a PRN therapist that the clinic hires, or is everyone else just expected to see those patients spread among themselves, which can be really rough. I just got done doing that, and it was terrible. So my personal bias here is that only the people who need therapy the absolute most from the therapist who's going on vacation should be on the schedule. Everyone else should be able to wait for 7 or 10 days or however long it is. So only the patients who are the most stiffness dominant or the most deconditioned should be distributed among all the other therapists. Because you introduce too many variables when you are seeing somebody else's patient for a long period of time, and you haven't done the eval, and you're kind of just going through the motions that the other therapist has done previously. And sometimes they can establish a plan of care for you with how to progress that patient, which is great, but a lot of times that won't happen. And in a day and age, especially here, from my view in Michigan, where you're not even guaranteed 3 or 6 visits sometimes, spending a couple visits just doing what their therapist did with them the previous times can be a giant waste of resources. So the system that I like to see is that if a PT is going to go on vacation, then they need to catch all their patients up with progress notes so that you don't have to do your charting and their charting, and then only schedule the people who need therapy the most. Otherwise, you'll get burned out very, very fast trying to see your patients, some of someone else's patients, and doing the notes that are associated with seeing that extra increase in patients. You'll get burned out really fast. I just got done doing this for about the past 2 weeks, and it's not a good experience, that's for sure. Tip number 3. If you are accepting a new position, is there going to be a new grad or a new PT caseload speed, like a graded schedule that will work you up to a full caseload? That can be really beneficial while you learn the clinic systems, learn a new EMR. The only caution I have here is that it's not really realistic. If you're going to be expected to see a patient every 30 or 45 minutes, it's not realistic to train by seeing a patient every 60 or 75 or 90 minutes. If you're going to be moving through your schedule with some speed, then training at half or a third of that normal caseload isn't going to prepare you for what it's like to be working a full caseload. So there are pros and cons to that system. And I'll finish with probably the most 2 important points of scheduling. The first one being that you have to spend time training your staff to do some of the work for you. And what I mean by that is teaching your tech or your PTA the symptom behavior model, how to, when they bring a patient down, how to assess their subjective asterisk signs, instead of just bringing somebody down and putting them on the bike or something, to greet the patient, find out about their subjective asterisk signs, how their progress is. That allows you to then jump into the objective asterisk signs, and then from there decide the plan of care, whether it's going to be more exercise based, or if they're feeling worse subjectively and objectively, then scaling it back a little bit. That will let you kind of dictate the plan of care for the day, and that'll make the schedule so much smoother. It seems very small, but teaching somebody a couple hours how to do symptom behavior model, and having them save you that 5 to 7 minutes. There's nothing that says a tech can't ask somebody subjective history, especially if you're teaching them to do it in a very targeted manner with the symptom behavior model. The tech comes down and says, Alan, Dave's here. He says he shoveled snow this morning. He only made his back pain go up to 3 out of 10. He slept through the night last night. And he went up and down the stairs 5 times last night to do laundry, and he had no pain. I'm like, perfect. Now I'm ahead of the schedule. I can look at his motion, look at some of his objective asterisk signs, and then from there, obviously it sounds like he's doing well. Probably load him up some more, and then go from there. So spending a moderate amount of time up front training a tech or a PTA in the model that you practice in can have huge time dividends down the road. It's something I've heard too from Andrew Bennett down at Texas Physical Therapy Specialists, is kind of the responsibility of being a healthcare provider is to recognize who needs more of your one-on-one time and who doesn't. So everyone should see you a little bit for one-on-one time, but not everyone needs all of your time to be one-on-one. As people are starting to feel better, they are mainly going to be exercise. Some of them are going to be exercise only. If they have no pain or range of motion deficits and they're just getting stronger, then they don't really need to see you at all for manual therapy. And I think sometimes as therapists we have trouble letting go that someone needs us for 20 or 30 minutes one-on-one, hands-on. But if they're starting to feel better and their deficits are really small or gone completely and they're just getting stronger, then they don't really need to see you for a lot of one-on-one time, and we have to recognize that and know when to delegate that care out to other staff members. And I'll finish with the last point, which is something I'm still learning and still struggling with, but for the love of God, do not bring somebody down early or make a habit of seeing somebody early just because they show up early. I guarantee you are the only healthcare provider that sees that person on time. So we get in a real hissy when people are sitting in our lobby, even if it's not their appointment time yet, in trying to see them early. You are the only healthcare provider that sees them on time. They will go see their PCP later in the day and sit in the lobby for 2 or 3 hours. They'll wait an hour to see the dentist. Do not feel bad that Dave has to wait until 9:30 for his 9:30 appointment. He's fine. He's reading the paper. He'll be okay. And I say this because part of being a professional and really being an adult in general is managing expectations. And if you bring somebody down at 9:08 for their 9:30 appointment a couple times in a row, they're going to think that it's okay for them to come now at 9 and be seen as soon as they get there instead of 9:30. And some days that's fine. If you have a cancellation or something, and I do this to myself all the time, and I regret it every time. I bring them down and see them early, and it's a great time. Everyone's happy until the next time they come in, and I don't have a cancellation, and they expect to be seen at 9:08, and they're standing in the middle of the gym, and they say, "I'm here for therapy," and you're thinking, your appointment's not till 9:30. Go back to the lobby. But by then it's too late. You can't tell them to go sit back down. You're gonna destroy your therapeutic alliance with that person. So the easiest way to head that off at the past is just to never bring people down early. And again, this goes back to training with your staff, with your front desk staff. I tell mine, don't send my patients down. I'll come greet them, or my tech will come greet them. If I can see them early, I'll come and get them early. If it's obvious, if they're here an hour early and I have a cancellation and they're my only patient for the next hour, then I'll come greet them. But don't send them down, because that can really jam up your schedule when people kind of just start showing up whenever they want to. And again, don't feel bad about it. I see it. I've seen it in every clinic I've been in. We feel terrible that someone is out there waiting at 9:20 for their 9:30 appointment. We're trying to rush our current patient out so that we can see that person there, so that they're not sitting there, but don't feel bad about it. Where I practice right now, the town doctor doesn't do a schedule. He does walk-ins only. People will go sit in his office from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Sometimes they'll not be seen at all. So I don't feel bad at all that someone is waiting until the time we agreed upon to be seen, and you shouldn't either. So that's it. Those are the 5 tips that I have for you. So in an interview, when you're first looking at a position, being crystal clear about what your schedule is supposed to look like, what your productivity requirements are, finding out how vacation and sick days work as far as seeing other patients or other therapists' patients, finding out if there's a new grad or a new PT type schedule to ease into the schedule and learn the ropes, spending the time, a lot of time up front, training your staff, teaching your staff in the way that you practice, and then never bringing patients down early, especially half an hour early, and managing those expectations regarding the schedule that you've agreed upon and the patient has agreed upon. So those are the 5 tips I found in the past year or so. Hope you found them helpful too. If you guys have questions or comments about scheduling, throw them in the comments here, and I will answer them a little bit later. Have a great Thursday. Happy New Year. Be safe, and see you guys next year.